Hey guys, Stock Saturday, and it's been a pretty good week. Markets have sort of been up a little due to, it seems, Google and sort of one or two other companies lifting expectations for earnings for the rest of them. Nasdaq sort of certainly doing better, but I'm up 6.7%, excluding another £2,000 that I've added. Have sort of had a bit of cash on the sidelines for a while and decided to deploy some of that. So still a little bit more to go. That has gone into interactive brokers, but yeah, some sort of reasonable gains on this side. Stellantis is down to 24.74 because of ex-dividend mainly, although it hasn't been sort of performing particularly well the last month or so. But yeah, that's not down sort of just because of the market. I should get a sort of relatively huge dividend of I think about £900 in a month or so. So yeah, that's a little bit down. Broadcom is back up to 13.44. Sort of Nvidia doing quite well, and that just seems to be following Nvidia around largely at the moment. Similarly with TSMC, back up to the sort of 138, but was in the high 140s before. Vanguard emerging markets starting to just trickle up as well. Sort of keep seeing that, £300, £400, £500 in profit, 6% up. So yeah, I've sort of been considering selling that off and putting that into other things. Sort of yeah, a little while ago when it was not doing so well. But yeah, hold on to it for now unless I see anything sort of huge opportunities. Process as well, with Tencent doing quite well. The process has been on the up, so good to see. But yeah, let's have a look at some other news. So market doesn't seem to have taken this particularly well. One of my fairly big holdings, Equinox Gold. So they've been building their new greenstone mine in Canada, and they owned 60% of it, with sort of 40% being funded through Orion Mine Finance Management. And they've always said that long term their goal was to sort of grow their annual production by buying the remaining 40% of greenstone, and they have looked to do that now. Sort of market may be unhappy that they've sort of paid an awful lot more than they could have, maybe if they'd sort of taken more risk and borrowed more, or sort of diluted shares maybe back when gold prices were less. I presume they are paying $995 million now because the gold price is a little bit higher, and sort of the remaining 40% of that mine is worth more. But yeah, I still think it seems a reasonably good deal. They're paying more for it, but there's, you would say, more certainty in the value of that 40% now, with sort of gold at 23.50. But yes, it's this is a little out of date. They were saying 42 million shares valued at $250 million. It looks like they've now pushed through. It was oversubscribed, and they've done 57 million shares for a little over $300 million. So I guess that's why there was a bit of a drop in the price as well, because those are priced at $5.30 and the stock was at sort of $6. So yeah, a bit of a discount. And then 705 million in cash payable on closing, 40 million in cash payable at the end of 2024. So yeah, 995 million overall is a fair amount. It's sort of half their market cap really for yeah, 160,000 ounces, where they do about 800,000 sort of going forward before this deal. So you could see it as paying half their market cap for, not quite that much, that many ounces, but it's not sort of a hugely capital intensive project that's going to be ready sort of middle of next year. It's already finished, and they're starting mining sort of next month, really. So they're saying first gold sold sort of in a couple of months. So yeah, you just pay up and instantly get the reward. I think that is probably worth paying for. So it's their largest mine, and it will be 400,000 ounces now rather than 260,000, 240,000 a year. And that's over the first 5 years, and it's a 14-year mine life, I believe. So yeah, very good, I thought. And sort of the shares have dropped, as I say, partly because of the dilution being at $5.30, partly because it's dilution full stop, and maybe that people see it as a poor deal. But I thought it was okay, to be honest. So while we're on mining, I thought I would have a look at KGHM. They've taken an awful long while to push out their 2023 annual report, so it is a little bit out of date now. But they have finally put this out. 592,000 tons of copper, which is pretty good. It's puts them sort of top 10 in copper producers in the world, which I was pretty happy with. But the bit that I still think is sort of maybe not going unnoticed, but certainly unloved, is 1,400 tons, 1,428 tons of silver. They are saying so 2020 this was at 1,320, but it's not going to stay quite so high. It's certainly not going to grow. They're saying in around 2030 they think they'll be doing 1,200 tons of silver per year. So that's be coming down from around 50 million ounces to maybe sort of 40, 43, 45 million ounces. But yeah, I think that's still a huge amount. Puts them sort of second biggest silver miner in the world. So yeah, I think silver should do well, and I think people are still just seeing them as a copper miner with a bit of silver on the side, which sort of people largely don't want. But as I think silver starts to come back in, they should recognise that more. This is their sort of lovely, flashy presentation, as all sort of miners do, about how much good they're doing for the world and all that sort of thing. It's not really something you should sort of take too seriously, I think, as an investor. It's more greenwashing, I would say. Just showing as well that their costs have increased. The C1 cost, which is sort of more of a cash cost than an all-in sustaining cost, has increased 25% due to higher minerals extraction tax charge. It's not sort of mining isn't something that anybody in the world wants, least of all Europe. But I think they'll come around eventually, even if they do keep sort of taxing things. Higher cost of materials, fuels, and energy, and higher labour costs. We all know sort of inflation has been hitting. So yeah, $2.20 per pound to $2.87, and sort of copper price has been doing very, very well the last month or so. But obviously this is 2023 results. This has sort of meant KGHM stock has been doing well the last sort of few months really. And I am sort of reasonably well in the green now, but this is looking at 2023 results. So yeah, it's down from sort of prices were doing quite well in 2022. Spent a reasonable amount of time in the high fours and sort of a little bit at sort of close to four. But 2023 was sort of mostly 350 to 4, and then sort of it's only this year that it's really got above 4. So yeah, higher costs and slightly lower price. So that has resulted in a bit of a loss, although most of this is down to impairment charges, sort of one-off write-downs of things, and not something that should be a particularly big issue going forward. So yeah, down from sort of 4.7 billion. This is in Polish zloty, so yeah, you have to convert that back. But yeah, down to 3.7 billion loss, but with 3.9 billion in write-offs and one-off charges. So it's looking like this year should be an awful lot better, and yeah, maybe that's why they were sort of delaying this a little bit further than expected. Sort of 25th of April, I think, for the 2023 annual report is not ideal. But yeah, cash flow sort of looking a little bit better as far as sort of not including the write-offs. So yeah, not too bad. They're just looking at their financial statements, revenue. You can look at it in euros. It's a little bit easier. 7.2 billion to 7.4 billion. So not too bad. That should be up this year with the higher copper price as well. As I say, reporting a loss, 800 million euro loss before tax compared to a 1.4 billion profit. Again, this is mostly down to the write-offs. Not a lot of no dilution at all, which is good. And yeah, sort of cash flow looking a little bit better than profit. Current assets as well, slightly increasing, 300 million. And non-current liabilities come down ever so slightly. Current liabilities sort of increasing a little. But nothing too big of a deal there. But that is, of course, the end of 2023, and they do actually release their monthly production data, which not a lot of companies do. Got to give them their credit for that. Most others do quarterly. And yeah, copper has been sort of pretty sustainable. 59.3 thousand tons in January last year, 59.9 this year. So pretty good. Silver was down for 1 month due to planned maintenance. So yeah, it's 42% down from last year. But if you look at February, it's back to 113 tons, a little down from last year, but not too bad. And 57,000 tons of copper. So pretty good. And you have March as well. At 127 tons of silver and 61.7 thousand tons of copper. So pretty good, and with copper and silver price both doing pretty well, results should be looking up, certainly for, well, if not for Q1, certainly for Q2. Silver again is going to be largely a Q2 positive. Spent most of sort of January and February sort of in the $22 range. Hasn't come to the sort of 26, 27 range until pretty much the end. If you look, that was the start of Q2. So yeah, the Q1 results aren't going to be anything special on the silver side, and well, Q2 should look a lot better. But even on the copper side, what's Q1 like for copper? So yeah, $4, a little better, but yeah, again, it's Q2 where it's really broken out. So yeah, Q1 ain't going to be anything super special, but I guess they'll be sort of showing, huge guidance, and the stock does seem to be pricing it in already. And economic news-wise, it's been not particularly great. You've had the S&P, they do their sort of global PMIs, similar to ISM, mostly sort of looking down. Manufacturing below 50, whereas expected to rise to 52. Services PMI down to 50.9, was it again expected to rise, so that's not great. New home sales was up and slightly better than expectations, so not too bad. People are buying homes despite the enormous mortgage rates, so good for them. Nothing much on Wednesday, but Thursday you had the official preliminary release figures for Q1 GDP at 1.6%, so quite a bit worse than previous and worse than the 2.5% expected. That sort of took a bit of a shock to markets. They weren't very happy with that. Sort of core PCE prices as well, a bit higher than expected and way up from the previous period. And then, yeah, you had the proper core PCE and PCE figures, inflation figures on Friday, and they were sort of both higher than expected. Core year on year was expected to drop from 2.8% to 2.6%, and it didn't. It stayed exactly the same. And headline PCI rose from 2.5 to 2.7, where it was expected to rise to 2.6. So inflation higher for longer potentially. People are talking about stagflation now with this sort of low GDP number and rising inflation. Still getting an awful lot of government spending. So yeah, I don't want to be in sort of tech a huge amount. I'm sort of in debasement protection mode. Industrials, crypto, gold, commodities, and that sort of thing. So yeah, portfolio wise, you can see I am leaning that way with just sort of a little bit of tech in the invest account, but mostly, obviously, it's crypto and commodities. So CleanSpark has sort of done pretty well for the week, up 7.5%. So that has provided a fair amount of the gain, although Coeur Mining up, I believe, 17% for the week. So very nice for them. Equinox is obviously down with their news, but I did buy a little bit in the option side. Riot Platforms way up from the $8 that it got to. Maybe I should have sort of sold off one or two more of the REITs and bits and pieces, or sort of put some of my cash in there. But yeah, I did a little, and it's a fairly big position now. It's closing in on being my second largest holding. So yeah, pretty nice with them. And Fortuna up a little, and the REITs and bits and pieces are becoming fairly small holdings for me now. It is basically gold, silver, and crypto. Similarly with the Interactive Brokers ISA, Pan American doing quite well. 1902 sort of was in the 20s, just over $20. So it's not too bad. And as I say, KGHM at 139, just sort of got to the low 140s during the week, considering it was sort of low 110s sort of just a few months ago. As I say, I think it's pricing in the copper, but I still think not really pricing in the silver side, but we'll have to see. If silver does sort of go up a bit more, whether it starts, if silver goes up more but copper doesn't, whether the stock goes up. That would be an interesting sort of control experiment, I think. On the option side, I have added, as I say, more cash. I haven't really bought a huge amount though. Equinox come down, as I say, and I did put a little bit into that. Wasn't able to sort of get the prices that I wanted to, and I wasn't ready to just sort of throw money at it. We'll have to see sort of what the next week or two brings. Haven't bought anything else, but yeah, Coeur Mining sort of doing really well now. 343% overall in the green on those. Equinox, with it sort of coming down, it's only at 24%, and I have been adding a lot more, averaging up on those, because my average is about sort of, 20% lower than where I am, really, although it's a few different dates and different profits amounts on the different dates. CleanSpark, 100% up, pretty good. Haven't added and won't be adding to that likely. And Himax, sort of still an enormous amount of contracts and an unknown as to what it's going to do. And then sort of my smaller positions, Fortuna and Riot, sort of doing okay. Riot was at sort of £1,000 and is now £1,600. So yeah, very nice with that rise from sort of $8 to just under 12. And then Desktop Metals, my just little sort of speculative one that Chris from the Discord suggested. So I put a little bit into that months and months and months ago. So yeah, interesting week. Interesting for sort of tech and whether we're going to be higher rates for longer. We'll have to see. So leave your thoughts in comments below and like and subscribe. See you soon.